All right, so welcome to another live off the mat call. I have one of my favorites, Christy Marsden here. We've been doing a little brainstorming on marketing for yoga studios, and always an exciting time to get together. So we're just going to kind of go straight into this. I also just want to kind of give an intro again on Christy, is that she is the owner of Yoga Blend Yoga Studio in LA. She has been a member of the Yoga Mastermind program, came through. And as I began to work with you, Christy, like I began to uncover all these things like Yoga Blend, her studio was rated number 2 in LA by the Huffington Post. Was it American Airlines?
Yeah, it was American Way magazine. We were listed, which is so cool. One of my friends texted me and was like, I just saw this. He was on the airplane. We had no idea that they listed us at the top 5 to visit when in LA, which was pretty cool. We were in all American Airlines, which was such a nice little surprise. So yeah.
So and then Expertise magazine did a expose basically on the top like 18 studios or something.
Yeah, they didn't rank them in order. They just said, here's the top 18 based on these criteria in all of LA. I was like 860 something, which was pretty, again, a surprise. We had no idea. Someone forwarded and said, look what you guys got. And I'm like, this is amazing. Nobody tells us. They just do it, which is pretty cool.
Well, what intrigued me is, and I'll tell you some stuff about the studio, is that it has over 70 classes or 70 classes?
Over 70 classes a week, yeah.
31 yoga teachers?
Yeah, something like that. Like, I think we have like 25 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
12 support staff or something like that?
Yeah, 12 support staff.
Lots of moving pieces.
Lots of moving pieces. Yes.
So I'm always intrigued when I meet someone like this because that's just flipping, like, it gives me anxiety thinking about having to like actually manage all of that.
Me does. That's fine. I got used to it.
So really, kind of today we've been talking about, me and Christy throughout the days have been talking about yoga and the state of it where it is today. And this came up a lot. Like when I was going through the bachelor's program for yoga, you get a lot of people who then just, again, we put yoga up on this huge pedestal. And we don't want anything to affect what we think is the purity of yoga. So when we see people that are a lot of times getting in and doing the workouts, what they deem as workouts, they want to get the 6-pack, they want to get the butt, whatever it is that they're there for, it's the body they're there for. A lot of us feel like it's in this, yoga is now in this watered down state, and it's not honoring the true path of yoga. And my take on it, and I definitely obviously is going to hear Christy's point of view, is that I feel like with a lot of things, you can't just go for the full version all at once. You can't just handle the 8-limb path all at once. I remember the first time, the first ever yoga class that I went to, literally the guy passed out 4 worksheets like on what yoga was about. And I was like, dude, I'm overwhelmed. Like you're sitting in a weird position already and your clothing is different. I got to take that in besides these worksheets. And so I think that's what happens. And I think this even goes back to like workshops. We try to give too much information. We try to versus taking somebody on a gentle journey, we just try to give them everything and they don't hear anything. So I just wanted to, because you've been talking about how that's kind of come up in the studio for you lately. So kind of like your feelings on
Totally, yeah. So I've been practicing for 22 years and teaching for 20, and I have a studio for 13. And I've seen it evolve so much, from Nashville, Tennessee, where it was like weirdo stuff. Like you only did yoga, weirdos did yoga, there was like in the 90s.
There's a great story here. Weirdos.
I mean, that was what the thought was. And so, and even when I started, I had no idea even what it was about. And, and now we've evolved and I think too, because we're more of an established studio, we've been around for a long time, it can be tough. And it can be hard not to take it personal when new studios open up and you're seeing how they're playing into sort of a very modernized version, watered down version of yoga where it's sweaty and everybody's barely clothed and it's real competitive. And it's hard not to get like a punch in the gut of like, man, What, why we got to fight. We got to fight for these people that don't really see the value of what yoga is, and they think that you're another service provider, that you're a gym, that you need to cater to them, that the customer's always right. And that's not really the way I feel, you know? And so where's the struggle is that I'm a business owner, so I have to remember that I opened a business, which means I have to evolve with the times. Like I have to, as much as personally as a yogi, it's hard not to sort of, let my personal feelings about the practice and the power of transformation bleed into other people who are coming in just to get their workout and not be, so it's walking that fine line, I think, is really the thing. And so where we are now at the studio is that, okay, and the perfect example, and this always sums it up for me, I was working with someone privately, and she came to me 2 to 3 days a week, every single week for 6 weeks. And I would give her all this information, and I would give her personal practices, I would give her tools, I would give her education. We would do role play, like conversations and things that she was trying to change, and with her kids and with her, spouse. And I mean, and every day she came, she would go back, nope, didn't do it, so I'm like 6 weeks in, and I'm like, she's coming she's paying me so much money. So I went to my teacher, and I was like, I feel bad taking her money. So she's not changing. And he looked at me and he said, what does she say to you? I said, well, she says, thank you so much. This is so helpful. And he's like, okay. And do you believe her? And I said, yeah, because she comes in, she's like, I feel so much better. I feel so much stronger. This is so great to me. I appreciate you. My whole week is better. And I'm like, but you're not changing anything. Everything, it's the same story every time you come back in. And he said, okay, so she says it's helpful. And she says that she wants to keep coming. Who are you to say that that's not how she should heal? I was like, oh, right? And I was like, it's not, and what he said and what has stuck with me and what I think about every time I get a little caught up in my ego of what I think yoga is, and then, trying to be a business owner or whatever, is that it's not up to me how people heal. It's not my journey, and I'm there to provide something. And if they are not at a place that they want to receive it, trust that what they're getting is something helpful. And if they keep coming back, then that's something that's helping them in some way, even if it is just to reach that first layer, the Anamaya Kosha, right? To penetrate that deeper layer of the physical body, right. To get through the structure, to get through that gross layer, to go deeper. And even if it doesn't matter. Like if I'm going to own a business, I have to get out of the way of how people heal, but also stay in integrity of what I offer and stay true to what I know is important to me and valuable to me, to why I opened a business, staying with my intentions, but also saying, don't I want to reach more people? Don't I want to help more people? And it's not up to me how they heal. Like I just need to offer, and then they get to, but I also have to be up with the times. Mm-hmm. Like I can't, even though I feel what we offer is great and has value, I still have to reach those people that aren't ready for that yet.
Well, what comes up for me is a lot of social programming, our own programming as, what do we think yoga is? What are we putting yoga in? And things that don't go outside that barrier, how do we treat that? Because we hold so close to what we think yoga is and how a teacher should be and how what a studio should be. And so, and again, it comes back to that putting yoga up on a pedestal. So because we put it so high up, when it doesn't match our thought process of what a teacher, a studio should be, we're like, no.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I get upset emails all the time. We were talking about this. Like me and Christy did a training on, just talking about the yoga studio and kind of the evolution of yoga blend and just, some learning lessons along the way. And I think we talked about money for maybe a minute or two. And it wasn't even that wasn't a core lesson within that. I got an upset email from oh my God, I can't believe you're just talking about money. It's not all about that. And I was just like, did you even listen to the training? I didn't even say in the initial email. And again, that's where I feel like our beliefs are holding us back.
Yeah, and I think if we don't talk about money, right now, that's the paradigm we use to survive in this culture. I think that we, sometimes we're afraid to talk about these things because it doesn't seem spiritual or it doesn't seem yogic and it doesn't seem, but it's well, I still have to pay rent. I wish that I didn't. I really, really wish that I didn't have to do those things. That would be awesome. That my landlord was like, you know what? I love you. You're just free. What you offer is so great. You can just go there rent free. And then I'd be like, free yoga for everybody. I wish
you
that
gotta find a karma yoga landlord.
Right. And I got to find karma yoga teachers, and I got to find karma yoga staff. Everybody, but it's like, if we don't talk about reality, aren't we sort of putting our head in the sand? Aren't we not really honoring the actual reality? Right. Is, and I want yoga to be accessible to people. And unfortunately, there are things that have to be done that we call money that has to be exchanged in order for people to get access to it. Like, it's a very challenging thing. It's like, we can pretend it doesn't exist, and because we're so spiritual, you know, I'm so spiritual that money doesn't matter. Well, okay, that's great. If it doesn't matter good for you. That's awesome that you figured out how money doesn't count in your life. That's great. I'm still working in a paradigm that my landlord wants a rent check every month. And until that changes, I've got to deal with that. Like, I've got to shift with the times. I have to be like, I think that people get so uppity and judgmental. And I'm like, was that spiritual? Because if that's spirituality, judging people for the way that they're doing their business or creating their reality or living their life, then that's not a spirituality I want to be a part of, because it just seems like the whole thing that we have a problem with so many things like religion is because it's hypocritical and it's like judgmental and whatever. It's like, is that what this is becoming? So I try to stay out of that as much as I possibly can. And again, doing my personal practice helps me to not get so judgy about the way people are approaching yoga or the way other people are doing business. Like, let them do their thing. Let me do my thing.
Well, so I asked Christy, like, you know, what is, like, we started asking like advice that you would give to yoga studio owners. And the first thing she said was, do your personal practice. Because it starts at the top. You know, like, you are the studio owner, you create the energy for that actual studio. I wanted to kind of like play off that because, you know, God forbid. I mean, I get so many questions about social media from yoga teachers. Like, that seems like just the buzzword. That's like, they got to nail that. And what I want to say real quick in terms of social media, a lot of times we have a lot of resistance to it because we're like, oh, it's about the ego. It's about getting likes and all that stuff. And yeah, it is. But, you know, look at every major guru, every major teacher. Do they typically have a social media presence? Yes. Because you have to meet the students where they're at.
Right.
And that just goes back to these kind of watered down classes. We have to meet the students where they're at. We cannot judge their healing.
Right.
And what I find, and this is just, you know, me standing on the shoulders of geniuses that have come before me, they just basically say that if you just start on the track, even if it's just watered down, if you stay on long enough, you're going to be attracted to like the 8-limb path. You're going to get attracted to the other attributes of yoga. So, I mean, it's such a big topic, and we get really emotional about it.
Totally.
I've met a lot of people who just really, I mean, my first teaching gig was at Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to like, you know, play the balance of things because I knew people were coming in for that lose weight and all that stuff. But I was so set in my ways. I would come in class and I'd be like, hi, I'm Ryan, I'll be your instructor today. Listen, I just want to say, just to, you know, be clear, if you came here for 6-pack abs today, that's not what I'm here for. If you came here for a nicer butt, that's not what you came for. If you're here for a deeper purpose, and I said, look at the reasons why you want a 6-pack, why you want a nice butt. What is the reason you want that? Because you think it'll make you happier.
Yeah.
And why do you want to be happier? Because ultimately, and I would just lead it back to freedom. We all want freedom. So that's what this practice is about. And yeah, some people would get up and they would leave. I would get like 4 or 5 people who would leave. And there probably were more that wanted to leave, but they just felt maybe a little bit rude. I just wanted to set the expectations for the class.
Yeah.
But again, another thing is I was judgmental about the styles of yoga. If you're trained in a certain style, I was trained in integral hatha yoga. I didn't want to do hot yoga. I didn't want to do any of this stuff. I was like, oh, that's a fad. Like, I don't want to incorporate other different styles. Like, this is the style for me because it helped me from my suffering. I had a terrible amount of anxiety. So again, when I found a modality, a path that just made sense, I put yoga up on that pedestal, and I wasn't willing to try I wasn't willing to try Kundalini yoga. I wasn't willing to try anything else, Bikram, power yoga. So let me ask you this. You are called Yoga Blend. And we've been talking about just today about a niche. And your niche is that you're a blend of everything.
I've got a very broad niche. Yeah.
Yes.
But it is, I mean, and I'll tell you why. When I first started yoga, I was doing several styles, and I would go to one class and they would say one thing, and I would go to the other and they would say something else. And instead of going, well, they said this, I was like, oh, that's an interesting perspective. And I think that that's what the 8 limbs teaches us, is how to pull things apart and look at all sides of it and not get locked into one vision of something. Like that discernment, the ability to look at all sides. And it's a very fine mind that can do that. And then, so you don't say, oh, this is right. You're like, this is right now.
Right.
But now is always changing, because the nature of Prakriti has changed. So if I am locked into this and then something changes and I have not broadened my perspective, looked at other avenues, seen all sides, I might not know where to go when things change. But if I'm able to step back and go, let me try this because today I feel ill, or let me try this, weak or tired or stressed, or let me try this because today I feel like I need some push, I need some strength, I need some fire under me.
Right.
Like, if you don't have that ability, it's great to be devoted to something and to be focused on it, but you need to be detached and relaxed about it. You can't be so focused that you can't see the forest for the trees, right? Like, you're so, and that's where Yoga Blend comes from, is that, well, like, you know what, like when I first started yoga, it was all about the physical, and then I got really super sick and I couldn't do a chaturanga. I couldn't do my head down. I had to lay in restorative poses. And so I was like, well, if I was so attached to the form staying the same, then I would suffer and not get the yoga, because now it doesn't look the way I decided that yoga should look by staying on one track.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it comes from. And people, tend to resonate with that. They're like, wow, like I always have an option here, whether it's very yin, or it's very power, or it's very, alignment based, or it's philosophical, or it's breath work, or it's the mantra.
So how do you convey that? How do you convey that to basically the students that are coming in? Like, this is a blend. This is what Yoga Blend means.
Yes, we have a conversation. Because it's all about community. It's all about the relationship. Because ultimately, the yoga at its core is about relationship, whether it's relationship to our breath or to our own thoughts or to other people. And the first sutra is like following the path of someone who's had the experience. Like, go, if someone does something or is doing something you want, you go say, how'd you do that? And that's where you start. You start by following the experience, and that is a relationship. And so we have conversation. That's the number one thing my staff is trained in, is to have conversation about yoga and Yoga Blend and why we are that, and if someone says, well, I learned it this way, and I'm like, okay, go look at my sign, and then let's come back and have a conversation. Like, I'm cool. Like, yeah. I'm not going to say this is right. This is just what's working today.
So the conversation you have, is that actually when they first come in?
Yep.
Or is it, because you had told me, which I think is a great idea, and especially studio owners out there, is that once they come to a class, was it within 24 to 48 hours they receive a phone call to see about their experience?
Yes.
I had that one time. I was visiting family in Wisconsin, so I wasn't going to join. I just really wanted to take a yoga class. But it meant so much to me that they actually reached out with a personal call.
Yeah, it's about the relationship.
Absolutely.
Always. And when they call on the phone, or if they come in, or after the fact and they have questions, or that we want to talk, we leave that space. We have a lobby where we can sit and answer questions and, try to say, like, here's what's working for us. Like, it doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't mean what they're doing across the street is wrong. It's just that this is what's working. And if it doesn't work, then, find something that does.
What would you think about, so during that conversation, it was asking how their experience is. Do you talk about any of the other, do you ask them about their goals or what they're looking to get out of coming in?
It's tougher with a group class, because they're going to a bunch of different teachers, and they're going to a bunch of different, times and things like that. But yeah. It's more just how the conversation happens. Like, it's just more of an organic, check in, like, how was your experience? Do you have any questions? Is there anything that we can clarify for you? Or, is there any feedback that you have to offer us, or whatever. Like, it's just more the dialogue, I think, because here's the thing, the person talking to them, they may never go, like, that person, we're talking several a week, like hundreds, you know, so it's hard to know that, oh, that was the Amy that came to the class at 12 o'clock on Sunday when we have 75 classes a week. So it's really tough to go, what's your goals? Because that's more of a private forum, I feel like. You know what I mean? Because you just don't know. I mean, you know, she calls 10, 15 people a day. So it's hard to know.
By the way, there's 863 yoga studios in LA.
Yeah.
Denise, did you have a question?
Just kind of a comment. On my waiver form, which the students fill when they first start the classes, I have a block where I ask what their reason for coming to class is. And I list a few things like aerobics and stress release and pain relief and anything else, so that they can just circle an item or they can fill in a block. So then I have that information, and it's good for me to go back periodically and look through those and say, okay, there's a bunch of people that really want pain relief for their low back or whatever it might be, and so kind of tailor my classes to those things.
One thing that I thought of was you have that conversation, maybe following it up 2 weeks later once they've started to build that community, or because right now, Christy, you said that you offer, this was a private conversation, you said that you offer 2 weeks for 40 and a month for 80.
Yeah.
And you said that you give people the opportunity once they do the 40 to then go ahead and do the 80.
Yeah, just to add 40, yeah.
And you said about like 80% of people will, after they do the 2 weeks, will go ahead and pay for the remaining 2 weeks. Is there ever a time where you tell them about more of the offerings that you have, like to have that conversation with them?
I mean, I think it organically happens just in the class with each teacher. I mean, the thing with 25 teachers, again, so it's a different, I think.
I'm talking more like around the staff side, like speaking to them more about the offerings, because that's what the thing is that like you go into a yoga studio and you look at a brochure and like that's where you usually have all your prices and stuff. You don't want to put like a billboard up like freaking McDonald's, you know what I mean? Because then it cheesifies it. Like I just made that up. So these pricing, I don't think everyone takes the time to look through the actual services that you have.
Right.
And so I think when you ask someone what their goals are, that's when you have the time that you can recommend like certain services that you have offerings for the class, the studio. So that was just a thought that.
Yeah, and we get a lot of people that come in and just ask that question or call, and you know, we just kind of go over like what are the kind of classes we offer, and here's the packages we offer, and here's the drop-in rates, and you know, membership packet, you know, things like that. So we try to educate people because you know, as much as you can put information on the website, people want to talk to people, and we try to be available for that, right?
Course.
You know,
absolutely.
So we do try to let them know what we offer. But again, it's tough because there's so many. We have so many people that are talking to so many people.
Yeah.
Right. And what I try to do is have meetings with my staff just to kind of talk about who I am and what I want to be offering so that they have that as a philosophical foundation for how they communicate and relate to students. You know what I mean? Like, here's what I'm about. Mm-hmm. Here's what the philosophy is about. And here's how, so, I mean, that's the best you can do, right? Is that hope that they take their personality and while staying true to the philosophy of what we're trying to offer, and then offer that to the people they talk to, right?
What came up for me actually was this is a studio owner that I talked to probably about a year ago. She's in California. She was in the process of actually getting like audited by the IRS because she was doing independent contractor agreements versus doing the W-2, and they were like going back to her saying, "You owe $7,000." For like the past couple of years or whatever it was, because you've been setting up this relationship illegally or incorrectly. She was telling me during that phone call that she actually tried to incentivize her staff that they would get a commission for all like the memberships and everything that they sold. And she still wasn't getting any success. Even though she was paying these people like $10 an hour plus the opportunity to make a commission, like these people still weren't doing it. And she felt so frustrated. And maybe that's because that system doesn't work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So have you ever thought about incentivizing like?
it's so interesting, and I know this will fly in the seat of pants, so much business. We are not a selling studio. We're a relationship studio, and we trust that if the relationship is right, then they will sign up, and there's nothing to sell.
Sure.
I don't push people to sell stuff. I don't say you need to sell this, because that's not the energy I want at my studio.
For sure.
I'm doing it, again, if I could for free, I would be for free.
Well,
so
selling has a different, we talked about social programming, your beliefs around selling.
Right.
I don't think necessarily selling is like, or you're pushing something on someone.
But if it's commission based, I feel like that's behind it. You know, I just pay them well. And then they just get to do their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's a personal thing.
I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do this. Like, to be honest with you, like, and I come from more of a business background, so like it's easy for me to say this is how I've seen past relationships. But we all know the yoga community often is different. Yeah. How you actually communicate to your customers, the way that and what I find is that typically there has to be more trust, more value given before you even ask, like, would you like to sign up for this or stuff like that.
Yeah.
There has to be more of the organic relationship, but give them opportunities to continue that journey with you of developing the relationship.
Right.
So that's also how I look at talking to them about workshops or talking to them about their membership. If you see that beneficial for them, I feel we have a responsibility to actually speak to those people about those things.
Sure.
I understand you feel like the exchange, the energy changes when you compensate someone for that. I don't know. I again, you own a studio. You're working with your support staff. I've never done that before.
Well, and for like my staff, like they're so great and they love their job and it shows. It's almost like they don't have to do anything, but because they're so excited about what we do and they so believe in it. And then they get all of these perks and they get discounts and they get, you know, free workshops and they get free classes and they get a compensation as well, you know, a regular hourly rate. I feel like it's organic, like you know what I mean? So I think it's different the way you set up your business and the way that the staff that you have. Like I feel like my staff is just phenomenal. They're so good at it. Like they love yoga, and they'll say it. They're like, I love this place more than you know. Well, so it's like, I don't know.
This is more than just like who you hire, because at the same time, like you've attracted those types of employees. You've attracted those types of teachers that have been with you for 12 freaking years.
Yes, I got a lot of people that have been with me for over 10 years.
So there's definitely something to be said about that, you know, besides just obviously the compensation. It's just like the classes. People will come for the classes, but they stay for the community.
Yeah.
Your employees stay because of the community as well.
And I think that there's different ways to do it. I think what I've been doing works because it's like everyone takes ownership, you know. I come there and everyone's like, I don't know, they're just like so happy to be there, you know, and it's so great. Like so, you know, I think there's different ways to do it. And I think what I'm doing works and everyone seems really super happy and they don't leave, which is awesome. You know, it's great, you know, and so, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think all of us like to have that opportunity to obviously evolve, but to be able to evolve with a community of people coming along with you.
Yeah.
That includes your customers, that includes, you know, your students, your support staff, your teachers. And so, you know, what I draw from talking to you always is community.
Yeah.
And again, I say this, like, I don't know if it's something I've created in my mind, but students come for the benefits, they stay for community.
Absolutely, 100%. And they tell me that, you know, they don't like, I thought I was just coming to get a workout and I found my family, I found, you know, acceptance, I found, you know, a practice. Like, so yes, I agree with that. Like it's like a living room. It's like people come in, they sit, they hang out, they chill, they talk, they share. And we know people. We're like, you're not going to want to come to our studio if you want us not to be all up in your business, because we're going to know you. We're going to know who you are and we're going to know about your life. And you got to be ready for that. Like, we say it too. We're like, you can't hide from us. Like, we're going to get you. Like, we're going to talk to you. You're going to, like, that's not, some people aren't into that.
Call it the Kali Yoga Studio. Kali Yoga Studio. We're going to destroy your ego when you come here, okay?
No, we're going to be like, how's your mom on them? You know, it's like very Southern. Like,
yes.
Sit down. Let's visit.
Yes.
And they're all like,
This is in Tennessee, by the way.
Yeah. The South.
So listen, Christy actually has to run because she's going to go to the airport. I think maybe one little question. Yeah. Is there any couple questions for anybody? Cleo, come on. You're a studio owner. What's going on? What are you thinking? What are some ideas, some aha moments you can take away from this?
Well, you know, I definitely resonate with what you said a lot. Like it's kind of naturally evolved this community. People come to the studio and they just say beautiful things. They're like, this is the most amazing sacred space for me. And like, I love all your teachers. And the thing for me is like, I'm in a small town in New York. And so there's actually a lot of teachers that want to teach at the studio, like more so at this point than there are students.
Wow.
So some classes are small, and I always feel a little guilt, like it's, I don't know, like I could do something better to help them create bigger classes because I want them to feel like appreciated by the community and like they can support themselves with this. So it's always kind of a question of now, you know, how can I build the classes for teachers? And especially some of the teachers that are more introverted and don't like to sell themselves, because there are some teachers like that, which is very, like, I understand it. I'm an introvert too. So yeah, it's just kind of like any thoughts around that, or how I can more fully support the teachers and the community by growing it.
Yeah, I mean, how long have you been open, Cleo?
3 years.
Okay. I remember when I first started, there was a woman who just came up to me the other day and she was like, I remember when I first came, it was like 13 years ago, and I was the only person, and you acted like that I was the only person in the world. Like, you know, you were so present. And I think that it did get to, I think it was about the 2.5 year, but we were in a bigger city. So I think that's a big thing that you have to consider, is the size of the city, which can be super challenging. But it did take 2 years for the classes to kind of fill up, and that was in a big city. And so I think that that's one of the challenges with a smaller city. And I think, you know, I don't know, you said small town, but how you can get involved in the community and how you can be involved, whether it's through the Chamber of Commerce or local coffee shops or
she does that,
all that stuff.
Yeah. Chamber of Commerce, right, Cleo?
Mm-hmm.
And trade events. I don't know if you do trade events for corporate. That's a huge thing that I will do. Like, we'll go to an event where they have a health fair and we're part of there and we talk about, you know, things like that. I don't know if that's available.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a topic just by itself, is actually how to get like in with corporations where you can come in and do yoga classes there. Yeah. Because if you can do them there, then hopefully you can draw them into the studio as well.
Well, that's the thing, is we offer these corporate discounts for people. They'll advertise in their corporation, and then we offer a discount so that they can advertise there, and then it draws. But instead of us going to teach there, it's actually, if you advertise there, we'll give you a discount for your employees, because then they can put it as an employee benefit.
Well, because, you know, a lot of companies, they don't necessarily have a yoga room. So you're doing it in a boardroom, and, you know, you're coming up with, you know, hitting your head on a desk.
So if you can establish that with some local businesses of like, hey, you know, if you put flyers up and put it in your email, then we'll give a discount to your employees, and it's a benefit added to the employees. So that's some things, you know, and I think that is one of the challenges in a smaller town, is that because Nashville is so different than LA. You know, I grew up in Nashville. I started yoga in Nashville, and the classes are much smaller there. What tends to do really well, though, which is super frustrating, goes back to what we started this conversation with, is those big, hot, sweaty workout classes. They get the 40 people. And I'm like, you mean you don't want to learn the niyamas and the Phyllis? Like, damn, it's so hard, you know? And I think that
patience, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you just said that, you know, and this needs to be really, really, like, you know, focused upon, is you have 2 people in your class, and how many of us are like, man, and we give off that energy. We're like, oh, I'm a good teacher, I should have, you know, at least 12 students here, blah, blah, blah. And people can feel that. And it's like, you know what? Once you actually take those 2 people on and you treat them like they're special, that's how you flip and grow. by actually being upset that there's only 2 people is not going to attract obviously more students coming to the program.
No, not at all.
And that's a shift.
Yep.
And I think that's difficult. I mean, I'd be honest, there's been many times that only 3 people showed up. I was teaching at a school, Europa University, and only literally 1 or 2 people would show up. And I'm like, Jesus, this isn't even worth it. And then that came off in my teaching.
Yeah.
I always tried to save myself during the time, but it's how you start out, the energy you're starting out with.
For sure. And something else I just thought of, Cleo, is that can be super helpful is engaging your current students by giving them benefits or perks for referring people that sign up. You are our community. You are, we value you, we appreciate you, and we want more people like you coming here. We want your friends and because you're the students that love us and support us, because 50% of my business still comes by word of mouth, by referrals.
Wow.
And because we have people check it off, 50%, even in the age of social media, 50% is referrals. So if you can give them a perk, whether it's free class, discount on workshop, a retail item, something that's not going to cost you a lot of money, but that they feel truly valued, then they're going to be your mouthpieces, and they're the ones going to say, come to this class with me.
Well, I think it's the energy you have putting that out there. It's hey, we want to build a community.
Yes.
We want
your friends.
We want like-minded individuals. Invite your friends. So it doesn't come off hey, we really would just want to grow our business.
No, it's more we want more people like you, because that's the people that are,
Cleo, you're busted. Totally busted. Totally busted. Listen, we already went 9 minutes over because I know Christy does have to run to the airport.
I know. I wish my flight wasn't this time, but yeah.
Yeah, we said a couple of times. Yeah, thank you so much again for being here. You're a freaking spark plug of energy. I feel like I just gained 5 more years of my life you hanging out for the last day.
That's awesome.
And we started with a whiteboard, and we started writing out basically a special program just for yoga studio owners. And that's something we're going to be putting together. So just be on the lookout for that. But thank you all for being a participant in this live off the mat. Always exciting to be with you. Just again.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you all for listening.
Thanks, Christy.
Being here.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. Y'all have a great rest of the day.
Nice to meet y'all online.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
You.
Bye.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.